Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo episode something. I don't know. What episode are we on?
This is 958? Is this
something 8, yes.
Okay, we're going to go with 958 collectively. It is December 20th, 2025. You're hearing this quite a bit later, I suspect. And this is our retroactive on Soul Calibur II, which if we could find the announcer doing that audio, it'd be fun to stick in there. But... hey, so we decided we want to do a retroactive, to kind of fill the time so we can take some time off for the holidays, and we have picked Soul Calibur II as that game, and it was we asked for some recommendations. I think it was on the list, but it is part of the GameCube NSO games. And yeah, that's what we went with, and we've been playing it a bit. And this, of course, was an extremely popular game on GameCube because of the inclusion of Link in this iteration. But also, the Soul Calibur franchise was really, really highly thought of. I say Soul Calibur franchise. The first game is Soul Blade, I believe.
Soul Edge. Soul Blade. You're right.
It's Soul Blade. Yeah.
Well, no, wasn't it that it was Soul Edge originally,
Probably.
But then some of the home port in some territories was Soul Blade, or
that sure
it was just some territories in
Which
general
doesn't
that called
make any
it Soul
sense.
Blade. But yeah, it was Soul Edge, Soul Blade, and then Soul Calibur after that. Before they've got up to what? Soul Calibur 6 now? They stuck with Soul Calibur eventually.
Yeah.
Soul Calibur 6, the 7th game in the Soul Calibur franchise, yes.
Yeah, that was the last one in 2018, so it's been a while since this one.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has.
And that's actually kind of a thing that fans of Namco Bandai kind of point to, and they're like, okay, you keep making Tekkens, but what's up with Soul Calibur?
Yeah, so the first game was, in fact, Soul Edge, released on February 20th, 1996, and this was released... July 10th, 2002, so this is a 2002 game.
Right. The first Soul Calibur was was big on Dreamcast.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I looked up the Metacritic scores. The first Soul Calibur has a Metacritic score of 98.
Yeah.
This one has a Metacritic score of 93. So highly rated games.
The first Soul Calibur game was incredibly highly rated.
Right. Well, it was kind of a taste of like higher definition gaming, especially if you. I think that you could plug in your Dreamcast on a PC monitor with using like the D-sub connector or something, and so like you would get higher resolution that way, and that just wowed people, like after years and years of PS1 and N64.
Yeah, I mean it looked... I remember seeing Soul Calibur... So I played Soul Edge, Blade, whatever, on PlayStation roughly around the time it came out, maybe a little bit later. I remember thinking it looked really good. It felt kind of shockingly good. And it had the most over-the-top intro I've ever seen, maybe to this day. Like it was a textbook example of the PSX game with a crazy opening cinematic. The song is like it is not remembered the same way that Chrono Cross is. But it's in that level of like, oh, you went way overboard on this in every conceivable way. And then my first experience with Soul Calibur was in the arcades. And I remember being just blown away by it.
Yeah. Yeah, so, because Soul Edge was the original arcade game, which was then Soul Blade when it was ported to PlayStation.
Right.
So, yeah.
Pretty soon thereafter. I think maybe even like within a year. But it's it's an interesting game in a lot of the franchise in general is an interesting game in a lot of way. It's not 8-way movement. That's the same way that I usually think of it. It's more like characters are almost like tanks. They can sort of move back and forth on the plane they're on, or they can sort of sidestep. It's more of a hop to kind of change the angle they're approaching the world from. And that felt very, as somebody who'd really only played 2D fighters up until that point, that felt very different in a way that maybe could feel a little awkward, but also meant that there's a lot more things like whiffs in that series than there were in other fighting games of the time, because somebody could just be out of phase with where you're standing and they would just punch to your immediate left or right.
Well, that's obviously one of the big differentiators with the kind of, you've got the vertical attack kind of button and then you've got the horizontal attack button, right? So that's what, if you're kind of worried about somebody sidestepping, that's where the sweeping kind of attack button is going to be used a lot. But yeah, that is something playing this game. I think back when I had it on GameCube, but also now, like the biggest trap that I can fall into is playing it like a 2D, sort of perspective game when it isn't one, right? Just like purely thinking about retreating and and when to go in close and all that, without thinking about, well, no, you can sidestep attacks and they can sidestep yours and all that kind of thing. So definitely need to get that kind of out of your head. But I guess that's the thing, isn't it? You've got to put it in the proper kind of context, because this kind of 3D fighting game, I guess really kind of started a few years earlier than Soul Edge with Virtua Fighter, right? So, Virtua Fighter kind of lays it down, and then you get stuff like Tekken comes later. I guess the interesting thing is that, for a time, this was, I guess, it's not that surprising considering, arcade games were so still, maybe they were kind of a little bit on the wane after, the kind of rejuvenating effect of the 2D fighter boom. But they still had a lot of prominence, and it was still kind of a yardstick for home games in the mid-90s, right? And so Saturn had Virtua Fighter, and later it had Virtua Fighter 2, I think. Sort of respectable ports of those. And so I guess like with it was a kind of a big deal for a time that PlayStation didn't necessarily have that, and then like was it Toshinden was like their answer to it, and that was like quite a thing in magazines I can recall. They said, well, no, you don't sort of score this one to Sega automatically because PlayStation's got Toshinden. So it was like an important thing, what I mean? Like, what racing game were you gonna? Again, you could have like Daytona versus Ridge Racer, from that time with Saturn versus PlayStation. Like this was one sort of a particular kind of game on which a system could be kind of judged of like, okay, what can it handle? Has it got a good one of those? And certainly that was kind of a big plus for Dreamcast. Like you said, it's Soul Calibur, the original, reviewed extremely well. And I had a friend who had a Dreamcast, and I saw it. It was very impressive. Like you said, at that time when you're used to N64 fuzziness, obviously there was some N64 games that had a high-res mode, but not that many, and a lot of them ran very poorly, even more poorly, shall we say, in terms of the frame rates and stuff. And so, that was definitely a big deal. But yeah, you've got to put it again in that context. The N64 didn't even really have a Toshinden level answer to this question, right? I mean, unless I'm just totally blanking on something.
War Gods? I don't know.
Yeah,
no, not
War
really.
Gods. I mean, the fact that even got coverage just kind of shows you the dearth of stuff in that particular vein that it had. Yes, you had like Killer Instinct Gold and the Mortal Kombat Trilogy port very early on. But those were orthodox 1v1 2D fighting. I mean, Killer Instinct Gold had like fully polygonal levels and stuff, so it had like a little bit of a 3D element, which was even, I think, beyond what the arcade had, because the arcade was more of a, it was like a pre-rendered video that they to like
scale
fake,
also.
Fake 3D like a bit differently, whereas N64, that what it was good at was polygonal, so it was pre-rendered sprites but on fully polygonal backgrounds, but the gameplay was what it was. It was not Virtua Fighter, and I really can't think of anything respectable that came along in that vein. So when we finally get to Soul Calibur 2 on the GameCube, it's we're finally kind of getting into that space. You feel like, I'm actually going to be able to kind of own one of these and play it and enjoy it.
Yeah, and like actually getting to see, like, Soul Calibur itself was stunningly impressive, and Soul Calibur 2 raised that bar again.
And the characters still look pretty good. I
gotta
gotta say.
They do. The model, like the backgrounds look rough, but the character models are pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I guess they look decently anime-ish, and just, but like with like skin that looks like skin,
right?
Like the reflections and stuff like that. But although like it was noted, I need to look up on the thread in the Discord, but someone did note that they all could use maybe a little bit more facial animation. They all kind of look like they're wearing a mask.
Especially when you get the close-ups before matches and they yell at each other.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I guess that's the thing. What you got to remember, if you're playing it the way, certainly the way I did, I assume all of us did here, and if anybody playing along, listening at home, it's probably going to be through the expansion pack and the Switch Online service. But of course, you're talking about a higher resolution. And I do feel that sort of giveth and taketh away in aspects. I would say, especially with the stages, that you mentioned, James. Like there's certain aspects I feel like that we're seeing more clearly than they obviously were planning for, accounting for back in the day. So you could see some rough elements. There's also some things that hold up surprisingly well, I feel like, in the background. But yeah, it just kind of, I guess, skipping ahead a little bit, when you fight like the last boss of the arcade mode, that seems like shockingly Spartan by comparison. Like it just like there's really nothing to it, is it? It's just like a flat, vague hellscape. I get maybe because the boss itself is it has some extra effects on it, or it's transforming, or so they felt like they had to go with this is the equivalent of like old 2D games where the background would go black to accommodate like a complex boss sprite or something. But that particular stage seemed really kind of like a nothing burger or whatever. But some of the other ones, like I said, there's some cool like details to be seen, and then some rough edges to be seen as well with this kind of clarity.
Yeah, you still kind of see that, though. It's funny because I know in Tekken 8, I think when you fight the last boss, you're just on like this asteroid out in space. It's not some, I don't know. I think that's partially, obviously, a choice of the hardware, but
maybe it's just like a cliche at this, or a tradition.
Yeah, like almost like a master hand kind of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly that. Yeah, it's like you're always fighting master hand in the void of something, and again, that might have been. That might have been just like they had to do it that way in N64, right? Because like, but then maybe they've just kept it that way out of fidelity ever since. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The last boss in the arcade mode is very funny, and that's just so. There's a couple characters in this game, one of which you can play as, one of which you can't, that are just like whatever they're a little bit like Reptile, except you don't get to transform, or Shang Tsung, which I'm sure they borrowed the ideas from. But they'll just change in the middle of the fight, and so you get to see the weird jank of their character model get applied to whatever character they're pretending to be, which is very fun. It's very odd. All right, so let's to give a little context on this game beyond that. We talked about it in the lead up to the RetroActive, but it did really well on GameCube compared to other versions.
Yeah,
because
it sold 1.09 million copies on GameCube, which is the 35th overall best-selling game. But it sold more than Mario Superstar Baseball, for example, and is just underneath Metroid Prime 2 Echoes.
There you go.
And Pikmin 2.
And this was a pretty early GameCube game.
Yeah, and for what reason might Nintendo players possibly choose to get this game?
So, I don't know.
So every platform got an exclusive character. The Xbox got fucking Spawn.
But it was not announced, from what I remember, it was not announced that way. It was announced that the game was coming to all the platforms and that Nintendo was getting an extra character.
Oh, maybe.
And then later on, I don't know how much like the forums were right about this, but yeah, like maybe Sony and Xbox complained, and then they got extra characters too.
It does seem like a bit weak for the Spawn thing being exclusive to Xbox from the point of view is like you have a McFarlane designed character. Necrid is like
what
in
else
every
do you
version.
need?
Yeah, well, that's in every version, right? So it's kind of, like, you know what I mean? It's like the point is like it's separate selling points. I guess like you're reaching out to fans of Zelda. I think I read something at some point that suggested they were trying to get maybe a Final Fantasy character in for the PlayStation version, but that
would make sense.
Cloud.
But that didn't happen. Obviously in the end, but that would have been reaching out again to a separate fan base. But it's like the McFarlane fan base is already kind of covered by the fact that he's designing an original character. So it does seem like a little bit of a reach there for Spawn would have been a relatively well-known character at the time. It's not like it was like some super obscure thing, but just it's not that same additive sort of quality, is it?
I could see it though. With the idea that, to Guillaume's point of these were added later because we had to, because like we have an exclusive character for Nintendo, we need to put an exclusive character for these other ones. What do we got?
We've got McFarlane and we've got us, Namco.
Yeah, they picked Heihachi, who is a famously unarmed combatant.
Yeah, I think again, it's about weapons. That is such a key to the identity of like, okay, well, what is different about this compared to Tekken and Virtua Fighter and whatever? And it's a strange choice, I guess.
Yeah. So, but Nintendo is certainly a motivating factor in the number of sales it picked up. Got Link, Nintendo's more famous swordsman than some of the other options that were available. And that definitely drove a lot of hype around this game, that you're going to get to play as Link in a fighting game.
Especially since the GameCube would be getting its own Zelda a couple years later, but Nintendo had already shown what that Zelda would look like, and so that was like the era of forums going on and on about Zelda and complaining about how they had turned Link into a cartoon, and just basically judging a whole game based on a very limited amount of footage that was available, or just like still screens. Off
screen, not direct feed. I think it was like the very initial looks that anybody ever got of Wind Waker was actually was it Space World or something, and so there was a direct 2001 feed, and it was just people with cameras getting grab and then getting some footage off the screen and then doing grabs off of that, and all of this with early aughts bandwidth and infrastructure to kind of distribute and appreciate this stuff. So obviously it's a pretty comical all in retrospect, but that was, I think, just a matter of a few months away at the end of 2002 in Japan, and then better part of a year away for Wind Waker coming out. But still, we all knew what it looked like. On the other hand, we were just about half a year removed from Melee coming out, right? And obviously Link, the famous demo of at a different space world or whatever it was, where Link was fighting Ganondorf. Well, that was the Melee Link that was doing that, right? So obviously his appearance here has a lot more in common with Melee Link, and the concept art that they have in the galleries and stuff here just looks like it's straight out of Ocarina of Time. I mean, don't you think? Is it? Or it's extremely similar at the very least.
Yeah, from like the manual or something. So actually, already I have to add an erratum. My timeline is completely fucked up because I looked at Wikipedia and at like the arcade release of Soul Calibur II. So the Wind Waker had already come out when Soul Calibur II.
Right, it's 03 by the time it actually came to GameCube. Because I do believe when you get to Soul Calibur 3, which PlayStation, Sony, I guess they just paid up and made it an exclusive after the fact that the GameCube version was the best-selling version of Soul Calibur 2. They just said, all right, we're not having that again, even though we're just completely dominating this. You know what I mean?
we must dominate even more.
So they paid, and that I believe the PS2 version of Soul Calibur 3 may have actually beaten the arcade. It came out before the arcade in that point, but before that the arcade versions came out a fair bit before.
Yeah, that was probably more of a comment on where arcades had really gotten to at that point. If you weren't in Japan, if they still had to make an arcade version because of the Japanese arcades, but in the West it probably didn't really matter, so you could just do it whenever. If you even felt the need to make an arcade version, like I don't know that the most recent Soul Caliburs had. Well, they probably do, but yeah, it is very funny that they basically seemingly based the Link design off of that famous tech demo video for the GameCube. Because he looks very similar to that, which is not stylistically in sync with Soul Calibur. Like he does look
it's a bit of a compromise, it kind of feels like, you know what I mean? It's not as... I don't think it's as kind of stylized as the Melee one quite. Like it's a little more kind of... And obviously it's different. You're much more like seeing this model close up in Soul Calibur. That your Smash Brothers are you're drawn far away from the action a lot of the time with Smash, right? So this has got to hold up at close quarters much more so. So you could feel it's a little bit tweaked towards being more consistent with the other fighters and stuff from, the Melee look, but still, it's really mostly similar to that and a little bit incongruous as a result.
So, I assume we all played this game when it came out on GameCube, because I feel like most GameCube owners at that period did.
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I can't remember how close it was to the release, because sometimes it wouldn't get around to things for a few months, if there was other games or... I think this came out close to F-Zero GX, didn't it?
It absolutely did. I bought both at the same time.
Yeah, basically. So I might have kind of played GX a lot more at first. I think as GX, I would have had the Japanese version of that, whereas with Soul Calibur 2, I had the North American. So yeah, it was probably like GX I played a lot in that summer of that year of 03, and maybe it was more like the autumn, like by the time I sort of and much more gradually that I put time in with Soul Calibur 2. But but I think by the end of it I'd put plenty of time into it. Never got any good at it, obviously, but I did put quite a bit into it.
So in North America, Soul Calibur 2 came out August 26th, 2003. F-Zero GX came out August 25th. The day before 2003. Wow. But if you're going, I don't know if you were going by EU or Japanese releases, but the EU got F-Zero much later, at the end of October.
I would have had the Japanese. I would assume the Japanese for F-Zero GX was a little bit earlier than that, because I feel like I'm pretty sure I was playing it sooner in that summer.
In July.
But that's the thing. Yeah. I mean, that's an important thing to mention. I think just again, we're talking about this specific type of fighting game here, but just like it kind of is emblematic of something that was really quite different about the GameCube experience versus the N64 experience, which is just the much healthier participation of major Japanese developers, well, specifically the Japanese ones, right? Because N64 era, they just managed to alienate them, so completely with the way that the whole Dream Team thing, the cartridges, and just the whole kind of complacency of that, right? They just got caught kind of fighting the last war, right? Which was, we own Japan. no one can beat a situation. Everyone think about the 16-bit era as being quite a hotly contested battle where, Sega did it very, very well in Europe, for instance. In North America, it was very close, and, it was only really like with DKC and stuff towards the end that Nintendo turned the corner on them. But in Japan, the Super Famicom was, like 80% of the market or something, just complete domination. And they thought probably that it's like, we've got it sewn up. They'll have to, develop for us on N64 because, what the hell else are they going to do? And of course, what happened was that PlayStation took enormous advantage of that and, mopped up with those developers like Namco. So with GameCube, it's like, oh shit, well, we better actually do some outreach and get these people to come back. You've got things like, obviously, where they're paying very kind of directly to get Capcom to develop a bunch of exclusive titles, very few of which were actually exclusive in the end. But, it certainly helped get, stuff on the platform. And you saw it as well from Namco and stuff, and it just if for me, definitely it was like all these sorts of types of games that you'd kind of missed out on in the preceding generation. Not just the fight, a lot of stuff that was similar to the big Japanese arcade games, or it was a very different. Even though in some ways it was similar, because actually the GameCube was less popular than the N64 in terms of the units. So a lot of it, I think, because the Xbox kind of came in and ate its lunch in the sort of multiplayer North American kind of area. So the kind of GoldenEye effect gave way to the Halo effect or whatever, with Xbox and whatnot. But they had this outreach in Japan, and it didn't show up that much in terms of the popularity of the system. It was still less popular in Japan than the N64, believe it, in terms of the units of hardware sold. I think it was like 4 million instead of more than 5. But in terms of the range of software that we had to play, typified by stuff like Soul Calibur II, it was a pretty substantial improvement.
Yeah, but Nintendo had to fight for every kind of to just keep the third parties on the system for such a long time. And like by 2005, like they had really internalized the lesson that if you put a Nintendo character in a third party game, it might sell better. It might help it sell better. And so EA really took advantage of that, because by 2005 we got NBA Street V3, which has you can dunk on the Beastie Boys with Mario, Peach, and Luigi. SSX on tour, SSX4, where you could ski and snowboard again as Peach, Luigi, and Mario. Little Mac was in Fight Night, I think. Like whatever.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, so you could play as Little Mac, and
I think also actually, like emulated Super Punch Out, right? It's
yes,
yes. We think of
and
like
that
Animal
was like
Crossing.
Back in the day when we got the ROMs for NES games and Animal Crossing,
exactly,
but not really anything beyond that, right? Like the Wii Virtual Console was not yet an idea that we had heard about, but yeah, like the SNES games were rarely found emulated. Like there was also like Prince of Persia that had like an emulated SNES version in like Sands of Time, but that was not a Nintendo game. But anyway, like yeah, so there was a bunch of like characters on loan from Nintendo back then. But other than that, like you had like, I think Burnout 3, which back then, I don't know if it was true again, but like I had heard that Burnout 2 had sold better on GameCube than Xbox, and yet Burnout 3 was exclusive to PlayStation 2 and Xbox. It skipped the GameCube. So, they were kind of losing the battle.
I get that, because at some point, like the GameCube never felt like it was becoming more healthy of a platform as time went on. It always felt like it was slowly losing steam and market viability. So I can see just saying like, well, is it worth our time making another version of this thing? A version that's going to live between the PlayStation 2 and Xbox versions. And I get how they got there. All right, well, let's actually get to this game in some more detail besides the fact that Link is in it. So, I wasn't really able to play with the online very much. I meant to do it this week, but things have gotten in the way. Many things have gotten in the way. But in terms of what I was able to do with this, I went through Weapons Master Mode. I went through a big chunk of what comes after Weapon Master Mode, and I played through Arcade with, I want to say, 6 or 7 characters. So I spent a good chunk of time with it. What about you guys?
Yeah, I went through about probably half a Weapon Master, and I played through the Arcade with a Link. I figured that was the most relevant one to play through it with. So I unlocked a bunch of stuff, and unlocked probably about 5 or 6 different characters.
Yeah, Weapon Master has like a lot of the seemingly pretty much all the unlocks are through that mode, really, other than like unlocking stuff for the gallery or whatever. But
correct,
yeah, that's and again, it's worth mentioning this Weapon Master mode, which is pretty substantial stuff for a single player arcade port, kind of a single player component of an arcade port. It did have precedent with the previous games, right? Like I think the Soul Calibur and even Soul Edge had relatively beefy kind of single player modes for their day, and this kind of carried that on. But yeah, I got into Chapter 8 with Weapon Master, which I think is probably not that far from the end, but there's a decent amount still left. There you go. So you get into the point where a lot of the challenges have like the 4 out of 5 star kind of difficulties at this point. Though they remain cheesable, as John was already sort of alluded to. But I think go through arcade mode as well. A selection of different characters. Link always kind of struck me as like almost have an unfair advantage with the projectile weapons. Like because he's got the bow and arrow, the bomb. The boomerang, like that always struck me as like really quite a big sort of leg up. So I did use him a lot back in the day. And also he's just Link, right? Is he, you're familiar with him rather than...
And being able to strike from distance is huge in this game because you can get an advantage right out the gate.
I mean, I like some of the other characters that have like long range weapons, right? Like Killick, for instance, or like Ivy, like that. But it's like with Link, it's like his sword's got decent range, but although again, you have different weapons, right? That you can unlock you can buy and unlock others in the Weapon Master mode. But that always struck me as just this big advantage, and I got really used to. Exploiting the ring out stuff with Link because he's got this throw where he pins the arm and like reverses them. And then you just chuck them out of the arena and that's it. So, especially if like, you're like, you know what? If this is just a matter of like regular attrition, they're already too far ahead of me for me to win. But, if I just coax them over towards the edge and,
get them basically like he throws at a 90-degree angle or something, so when he does the arm twisting thing. So you just get both like on the edge of the thing and then, do the grab and swing them out.
Basically, yeah. So it definitely... I remember playing as Link a lot back in the day, but don't know whether I ever really got particularly advanced with him. I think just sort of exploiting some of those basic sort of advantages that he has more than anything kind of take you pretty far in something like Weapon Master. And Arcade at the regular difficulty is, it's not like doesn't put up a huge amount of resistance anyway.
No. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah. So I back in the day, I probably played through Weapons Master, and that was probably it. Then, I played through Weapons Master now for this, and a little bit of the arcade mode. I did play as Link because, it's Link. But actually, I didn't find, the projectiles all that good, but maybe I just wasn't good enough to use them. I would find that I would try to, Link throws a bomb. Oh, the enemy sidesteps it very easily. That's it.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's not the same as like Smash Brothers when they can sidestep stuff. So yeah, the bomb in particular seemed a bit pointless.
Yeah, and I would often, like in this game, I'm kind of button mashing because I don't really. It's too complex for me to know exactly what move I'm going to pull off at any time. It seems. So I would find myself just like, okay, I didn't mean to throw the bomb, or like, okay, now Link is ready to throw the boomerang. I didn't mean for this to happen, but I guess I better press that button again to throw it. I was struggling a lot with Link, and I found that he doesn't seem... I couldn't find a good combo with him, but probably I should have looked it up. But then, like, you try to look at the in-game help for like the moves and stuff like that, and it's a very overwhelming immediately. And so, like, I don't think I ever got to the point where I could find like the one combo. Like, I just found that I was very much like in starts, basically, like just like, okay, I swung my sword. That's it. Like, I couldn't chain that into something else, and I found myself struggling a little bit.
Yeah, I thought that his bomb is actually I felt like it was a little bit... I don't know if overpowered would be the word, but I don't know if any other character in the game has an equivalent attack where you can just consistently attack from range and have it do damage without you even really being there.
Ivy has a little bit. Keelik does, because it's his staff.
Yeah.
And Sungmina, if you unlock her, does. But it's different.
I mean, yeah, and like the bigger characters like Astaroth with his giant axe, like can swing, can just spin in place and just... I don't know, he's got some... he's pretty scary. He's a scary dude. He's got a lot of reach.
Yeah, he does have a lot of reach. So you have to get in real quick and then keep hammering him and hope that he doesn't hit you.
Yeah.
Because he usually, starts hitting you and doesn't stop until you're dead.
Yeah. But yeah, as fun as Link was, and like you get like most of his signature moves, including like downward B, basically like diving with his sword thrusted down.
The downward thrust.
What?
Zelda, the Zelda 2, basically, that one.
Yeah, and like all those classic moves. But I feel like maybe by playing as him almost exclusively back in the day, and this time I probably deprived myself out of like appreciating all the various martial arts that this game has, because like now that I've seen more kung fu movies, and like I see like Talim, I don't know how to describe it, but at some point she does like this little hop where her body becomes a T, like just like hops and like punches forward, and like her legs in the back, and just like I've seen that move like in several kung fu movies. I'm like, oh shit, I was Leonardo DiCaprio GIF just pointing at the screen like, that's the move that I saw in that movie. And it feels like a lot of the characters have this kind of research into them, like a lot of inspiration from actual martial arts. And I compare that to Link, like there's a bit of a difference there, like he doesn't have that kind of a real life depth or something. I don't know how to say this. I don't know if I'm even making a point.
The grounding of the cat, right? Like some sort of... Although there's plenty of outlandish stuff in the game as well, right? Like I don't know how much it sort of evolved from, Soul Edge onwards. Did they get more outlandish characters as it went on, or were they just baked in from the start? Because I never saw anything.
The series always was like 2/3 grounded, 1/3 weird. If that makes sense. Like,
I think probably the main characters I can remember sort of associated with seeing the Soul Calibur, the original, covered, and like a limited amount of seeing the game running on my friend's Dreamcast, was probably Sophitia and Lizardman, neither of whom are actually available at the start of this.
No.
But again,
they are very similar characters.
I mean, Cassandra is like a relative or something, is that right? So they've got the kind of equivalent of Sophitia. Is available, and then unlocked Sophitia a while ago in the Weapon Master mode. It's not like you need to do anything crazy deep into the game to unlock her or anything, but it just seemed like when I did unlock her, it was like, oh yeah, I should have been expected to see her way sooner, but I just didn't. I get it happens with fighting games sometimes where they put a familiar character like kind of as an unlockable rather than up front or something.
Yeah, and part of that is because there is an overarching lore that runs from Soul Edge through Soul Calibur 5. I think I want to say 6 is a soft reboot.
It is. Yep.
And Sophia
because Soul Calibur needed a soft reboot, like whatever.
Well, the lore had probably gotten too complicated at that point.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if it's
you got to take it back to the 1400s sometimes. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's basically what they did.
Yep.
Sophia and Taki were the ones who originally defeated the Soul Calibur in the possession of Cervantes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why she's out of Soul Calibur 2, because she's basically retired at that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cassandra's her sister.
Yeah, and then she's back.
It's like, I know this because I just picked up Soul Calibur 6 and watched the intro. It was it was like on sale for $15, so I was like, fuck it, I'm fucking gonna Soul Calibur it out.
You should go watch the intro to Soul Edge. It's fucking wild. But to Greg, to put it in perspective, Grow, who is in 6, if you think about Darth Maul and his stupid double lightsaber, imagine that, but it's a broadsword. So yeah, they still make dumb characters right up into the last iteration.
Sure.
So he's got a double-sided broadsword.
Yeah, I own Soul Calibur 6, and I played maybe an hour before this recording, and it's kind of weird.
Does the soul still burn, Guillaume?
Well, yeah, like there's a, I don't know,
Yeah.
no brighter than before, it seems.
It's
like
smoldering.
Yeah, it just when you see like the strides that like Mortal Kombat has gone all in on like the solo experience, right? Like the story, and like you play like this continuous story. It goes from, you switch perspectives, and anyway, like it's kind of like this whole kind of saga, inspired a lot by kung fu movies and stuff, and their own lore. Street Fighters, I'm less familiar with, but they've also taken a direction where that's interesting from what I understand. But Soul Calibur 6, like they do have a story mode. It's barely more advanced than what we got here in Soul Calibur 2. It's more linear. Like there are fewer battles for some reason, and there's a lot of scenes where like, okay, so Keelik is training with like this new master, and then like you get these, not even motion comic, it's like voiced comic vignettes that are kind of lifeless. They're not super great, and then you get to hear about the fight with this master, but you don't actually get to participate in it. And then it's the next chapter, and then you might have a fight in the next chapter. But there are like several story chapters that are just, okay, now we're telling you the story, and then we move on. Mm-hmm. There seems to be like different timelines. Like there's like the story timeline that I guess gets you most of the story, but then you've got character-specific timelines that you can go explore, and that are, basically parallel to the main story. So there seems to be kind of quote unquote a lot there, except that you might get like 3 battles as Cervantes or something, and like it's not, it seems very slight, and it's not very high budget, or not all that impressive.
Yeah, it's
right.
Not really,
but
it's not really expanded
it is
out, yeah.
Yeah, it is very much kind of in the same vein as the story mode that we got here. That's basically like, and here's our, D&D dungeon master narrating what's happening to your character. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk to you in second person, and
and I mean, you compare that with something like Street Fighter 6 now, where they have actually like quests and stuff, and you walk around an entire city.
Right.
It's
their massive overreaction from 5, where they did nothing.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
No, but that is an interesting point in terms of with the Weapon Masters sort of scenarios. A lot of it is geared around teaching or stressing certain fundamentals about the game, especially the very earliest kind of battles are just teaching you how the game works, which is, again, as we said, there's a lot to this game. If you're just looking at command lists, you're probably just going to nope out, because you've got command lists are divided between the core actions of like, as we said before, you got vertical attacks, horizontal, and the kicks, and then throws. And, each one of those, well, I mean, throws, there might be like 8 or something for a character, 8 different throws. And they actually have some of the most complex input scenarios, like where it's like you really are doing a lot of directional sequencing before like pressing the relevant buttons. With the others, it might not be like so much that you've got like hugely complicated different kind of inputs required with the directions, but just the sheer number of combinations, you end up with like 40 different attacks that are vertical and 40 different attacks that are horizontal or something. So again, if you're just looking at it, it's what are you even going to do with that information? But playing the Weapon Master mode, it's taking you through it. It's teaching you, about the basics, guarding, parrying, and throwing, and the ring outs and all that kind of stuff. And then even as the game goes on, every now and again it'll do something that's stressing a particular element, right? Like, oh well, when you hit somebody in such a way that they kind of hit the ground hard, like that does extra damage in this particular fight. Or have a fight where it actually is walled in rather than having the ability to get a ring out, and you do extra damage if you hit them against the walls. All these different sort of variables try and kind of mix things up for as much variety as they can muster, which on the one hand it's welcome, but on the other hand there's only so much you can do, right? Because ultimately it's not like hugely varied necessarily, but also it's trying to teach you the different aspects of the game. But what's interesting about it is that you can just switch characters freely, right? It's not, what it isn't doing is saying, learn this character now, learn that character, or like play this character story or another character story. It is just like all the names in the surprising amount of, as Guillaume has already mentioned, sort of Dungeons and Dragons sort of text and all that. Like it doesn't bear any resemblance to any of the characters that you actually know from presumably previous games and this game. It's just kind of
for this scene, this guy is going to be played by this guy.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like, okay, the characters themselves are like playing Dungeons and Dragons and like occupying different parts, and it's a little theatre troupe or something doing a role playing game.
It's very weird because the game, like when you go into Weapon Master, it says explicitly you could change characters at any time. It doesn't affect the story. It's like, oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, well, that's what I wound up doing for some of the challenges, where you realize that the character that you're playing with is useless for what you're trying to do.
Right.
In particular, the one I was struggling with was the one where it sounds simple, but you have to hit your opponent 20 times within the allotted time period. I could not do that with like half of the fucking roster. Until I finally found somebody that could do it.
I basically went through the whole. So I remembered that I played a lot of Talim when this game was new, and so I decided.
All you have to she's the easiest to use because all you have to do is press A on the character select screen.
That's true, but she has a lot of good, like, I can string some things together and do okay. She has a lot of moves that let you close distance, but her double tap, like both of her double tap attacks, but her double tap vertical strike towards the direction of the opponent is one where she does this leaping strike at the opponent. And it's really good for knocking people around. So a lot of those challenges in Weapon Master mode are basically, will be like, you need to ring the person out, or you need to bang them off the wall or whatever. And she can't really bang you off the wall with her regular attacks. But on that one, she pretty much is guaranteed a knockback if it connects. And so then it's just a lot of like sidestepping to angle it right like you're playing pool. So you can get it angled up right where you want to do. And then you shoot the shot off and you knock them back a little bit. And then you do it again and again. And again, until you've just like slowly pushed them off the stage. But then the ones that are more about like, hey, the enemy is not taking damage, or you need to basically combo them the whole way. Or you're poisoned and you're losing health. As I was playing this, I very much had the thought of like, this is a proto World of Light. Or Sakurai's challenges in general for the spirits in Ultimate. Because it's not just like, okay, we're going to make you fight a bunch of enemies. We're going to make you fight, we've only got a handful of enemies, but we're going to create a bunch of like really weird scenarios that push the limit of this game and make you figure out something distinct going on here. So there's a good example where you have to defeat 5 enemies, but your health is constantly ticking down. Now, you get some health back between every enemy you defeat, but not full health. Mm-hmm. You get like a quarter of your health back. So you need to defeat them quickly without taking much damage so you can get as much back as possible. That is very much like a weird thing that Sakurai would do.
Oh, it just feels like it's really pushing you towards like, if for some reason you've got that far and you've not been relying on getting ring outs for quick KOs, that's the time to kind of put it into you, because that can really pull you out of the fire, right? If you're getting behind on, because there's other ones that are trying to achieve a similar sort of thing just outright with the timer, right? Like you've only got so much time to beat this many enemies, and you might get a bit of a refill on the timer after defeating one, but still, if you're getting behind at a certain point, ring outs are the way to kind of get back in it, essentially, and give yourself a chance of succeeding. But yeah, we've talked about this recently with Kirby Air Riders, right, in terms of the approach that Sakurai's had in some games, where it's like, let's take all the variables that a game that you've designed kind of affords you, and chop it up and mix it up and create this sort of sequence of challenges to kind of show the player all the various things that the game has to offer, maybe teach them things about how it works, and also, string out some kind of substantial kind of play experience out of something that is otherwise a very arcadey thing. Literally, in the case of this, it was an arcade game. I guess the problem that this has, I would say, relative to a Kirby Air Riders or a Smash Ultimate, is it just doesn't have as many variables as those games do to kind of create the mixing up. There's some amusing things, like the one where like a succession of battles where people are like sinking in the quicksand.
Yes,
and like it has this sort of jank kind of feel to it, because like even like the little win animations, like the character's still kind of sinking, and it doesn't the camera doesn't really adjust properly to this very staccato sinking of the character into the ground.
There's other ones where like the gravity's all fucked up in the stage, and so something that you wouldn't think is in here, there it is.
Yeah, well, the ice one I thought is just completely ridiculous.
Oh, we're just sliding around?
You're just sliding all over the place.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's the worst one, because you come in and you move and you're like, well, wait a second, and then you ring out. You just ring out yourself, and you're like, what the hell just happened there?
I won that one because the enemy did a big like lunging attack and whiffed, and then they just slid off the side of the stage.
Exactly.
The fight was over in 1 second. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
This is the fighting excellence that I've come to expect from Soul Calibur.
Well, I mean, like they are teaching you like just move out of the way when something that happens. Just
I didn't even move. He just whiffed. It wasn't even like. He sidestepped and attacked, and then I hadn't even processed what was happening, and all of a sudden I see him slide, ring out. I'm like, what the fuck was that? And then I went back and read the description and went, oh my god, why? This is particularly close to what Sakurai did in Ultimate, which I have to wonder if he saw some of this. He almost certainly did. He almost certainly played this game. Because some of it's very on the nose. Stuff that he did later is like, this is just straight up a Smash Brothers Spirit Challenge. And using characters to represent things they aren't, which again is a Smash Brothers Spirit Challenge concept of like, what can we make Pac-Man be in the stage? Or it's like you're dealing with a mice infestation and you're fighting like 10 small Pikachus. like all weird shit that Sakurai would do. There's some of that here, but not nearly as fanciful, just because, as Greg, as you noted, there's not as much capacity to do bullshit. I will say with Weapon Master, one of the things that makes it really frustrating is it's a lot, but also it's slow. And when I say it's slow, what I mean is you can crank out a lot of challenges really fast, but if you hit a cave, oh my god. So the cave is like a big maze you have to walk through and fight a bunch of enemies, and you can't see the maze. You don't know where the boss is. You're just kind of feeling around in the dark, and every step is another battle. Yeah. And sometimes that might mean like 6 or 7 battles just to advance one spot on the map. Mm-hmm. Very frustrating.
And like, no matter what you do in that stage, if you find a boss or not, like, you're going to want to explore each and every room because rewards might be linked to the wrong path, you know?
Right.
Like, there's going to be a fight, like, it doesn't lead anywhere, but that you know that you want to do that one because that's going to give you a new pair of nunchucks for whoever, you know, like it's kind of ridiculous that way. Like I learned that once you exit out of a dungeon, if you go back, your progress hasn't saved. You'll have to do everything again. So the first dungeon I went, I saw the boss, I fought him, but I hadn't explored everything. And if I wanted to unlock like whatever I missed, like I would have to go and do the whole thing again.
Oh, I got to a point, especially in the dungeons, where I was just creating a save state right at the start of the fight, so I wouldn't have to go through all the loading screens again.
Yes, sure. I was going to say that's definitely something you could see the usefulness of, because it's a bit clunky, the whole like, okay, have the little failure fanfare, give you your consolation golden experience, then boot back out. Maybe you want to change character, maybe you want to change weapon, and then you got to get back in, and then we got to have the intro sort of scene and all that. It's a bit it could use with a kind of quick retry option, and then if you don't want to quickly retry because you would like to change your character or your weapon, whatever, then, you know, you could kick out to that other menu and go through the rigmarole. But otherwise, if you just want to say, no, let's just get back on with it, it could really use with that. And the end, you could do that manually by creating that. So you'd be, I guess, doing yourself out of some of that consolation experience and gold. But it's, I can't imagine it's amount to terribly much at the end of it.
It's never a lot. It's like 100 experience and like 200 gold or something like that. It's never...
Sure, yeah.
It's never worth it.
I was able to get through. So like I said, I got through the way through chapter 10, but there's a chapter missing because you can't get to it until you've cleared Weapon Master Mode one time. Because what you get when you clear Weapon Master Mode one time are bonus missions, which are essentially the map again with the second fight on it. And then you can pick between the new fight and the old fight. And after you clear the new fight, in some cases, it opens a branching path to places you couldn't reach before.
So that's how you unlock those.
Yeah. To unlock Lizard Man, the last character you will unlock, and I know this because he has to be, you have to clear all of Weapon Master Mode and all of Weapon Master Mode's bonus missions. This is like 40 missions. But also you need to be a certain level because your character levels up in Weapon Master Mode. And I can't deduce that leveling up actually does anything.
No. You just, it changes your title. That's about it.
You turn into, like, Golden Apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
To Platinum Apprentice.
Right.
Woo.
And then you'll gain a new title from Apprentice to, like, Golden Soldier. Or you'll be like Bronze Soldier when you move up to the next one. Like, it's just this long cycle of just classes or level ups that seem to have no impact, but there they are. I was extremely like I mostly enjoyed Weapon Master. I thought it actually did teach you some things. Particularly when you had a stage where it's like you have to knock people off the floor and they'll take damage. It'll be like floor is laced with landmines. So those stages that taught me a lot about doing knockdowns, which again, Talim has 2 skills that are good for knockdowns, but it taught me how to use them to achieve them. There's one that you can really only hurt the enemy after you've done I can't remember what the name of the block is, the active block, the knockback block.
Yeah, I know.
That one got me a lot. That one helped me out quite a bit because I was really bad at that and I didn't really need it because Tom doesn't really block. She just kind of goes forward. It spent a lot of time on verticality. So like I had to sort of understand how verticality works and how it controls. And it meant that like the arcade mode's not hard, but I absolutely tore it to hell when I went through it after I completed Weapon Master. I think I perfected Inferno, which is the final boss. I think I just combo chained him to the end of the fight. Which is a little embarrassing to beat the final boss of your fighting game, to get combo chained all the way to the end of the fight. Especially because he gets to automatically break your combo at every third of his health. Because he does his little transformation thing. And then I just immediately resume the combo. And I'm like, no.
I'd rather have that than a boss that cheats, like so many franchises.
You mean SNK bosses? Yeah. I'm
or Capcom or NetherRealm.
SNKs are particularly egregious. And then... God, 18 games are just fucking nightmares where they're just like, we're going to make this character absolute bastard. There's a fighting game. It's about transforming into animals. I can't remember what it's called now.
Bloody War.
Yeah. Its boss fight is famously fucked beyond belief because it canonically input reads, which is like, oh, that's fucked up.
By the way, I guess we forgot Bloody Roar. I'm sorry to all the Bloody Roar fans out there, but the first 3D fighting game on the GameCube,
Bloody Roar Primal Fury, which I owned and have played and unlocked unlocked the secret boss, and then unlocked the secret boss, and then unlocked the secret boss. That motherfucking penguin will absolutely destroy your shit. Because I think he's the one that input reads, which is just a fucked thing to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I thought the Weapon Master mode was a remarkably full-featured single-player experience for what that game is. And like a lot of thought clearly went into the challenges. It's just some of them are too repetitious. There's too much of them. And the caves are just miserable.
Yeah, they're miserable, and also what I didn't like is it doesn't really tell you what you're getting into. It doesn't tell you how many rooms you have to go through to complete it, right? It's just, unless I completely missed that, some of them are like, you have to go through maybe 8 rooms, and then some of them you have to go through like 16 rooms, and you're like, when does this end? What I couldn't figure out, though, is there's some rooms that are optional. Do you get anything by clearing out all of the rooms in one of those dungeons?
All of them, no, but there are bonuses.
I mean, that's what I was saying earlier. Like, the dead ends will give you often, like, a weapon that you wouldn't unlock otherwise.
Yeah, that's what it seemed like. I wasn't too sure.
And in this run, I just pulled up an old guide from, like, 2004 just to look at the map. So I was like, okay, well, I just don't want to deal with this shit. I'm just going to go there directly. And some of the weapons that you get are weapons you could still just buy in the shop, which kind of undermines their value a little bit. I bought a few weapons, but honestly, I spent most of the money on alternate costumes. Because characters only have 2 by default, so getting a third one is nice. All right, so did any of us manage to get to play it online?
I did not.
No.
Okay.
Not just now. I messed around with this a little bit when the Switch 2 launched. So obviously it was there from day one, along with F-Zero GX and Wind Waker. And Wind Waker's the only one I haven't played that much of, really. I mean, I made a little bit of a start on this back then as a test to see how well the kind of multiplayer function, and it was okay. I mean, again, somebody in the UK, so not very big distance discrepancy there relative to if you play with somebody in the US, it could be many times more far apart you'd be talking about. So it seemed like the kind of thing that you could kind of get by with. But obviously, yeah, again, quality of the connections and the proximity always seem to have a huge effect on, what the kind of playability of online stuff on the Switch online classic apps are, whether it's, N64, GameCube, whatever.
I played a lot of this game multiplayer at the time, but my memories of it aren't super great. But also, I had cleared Weapon Master Mode and had beaten everybody in the arcade, and the people I was playing with had not gone so deep.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was tough because, again, not that I ever got good at it, but for people, that I would play, it still played quite a lot of multiplayer stuff back then in the GameCube era. But, again, I was the one that owned Soul Calibur 2 rather than, other things like Smash Brothers, Double Dash, Mario Kart. Like, it's just, A, they're more accessible anyway. But B, that might be a case where everyone owns it or has played it a bunch and it's more of an even playing field. So it was always going to tend towards those games rather than, this game, which again, I mean, just like, it would be you'd feel guilty pointing to someone like towards the command list, wouldn't you? Just like, oh yeah, just have a look at that and figure it out. Like, it's just,
yeah.
No, you really would want to have a bit of time with the Weapon Master to try and get somewhat up to speed, and that's not that it's an enormous time commitment, but it's not trivial either, is it?
Understanding how the characters move in 3D space was something I had to relearn this time. And it actually clicked in me in one of the challenges where I think you could only damage them through the horizontal strikes.
Right.
And it forced me to understand the value of the vertical versus the horizontal strike, but also how one can set up the other. And how one can influence positioning and that kind of stuff. And it was at that point where a lot of this stuff clicked again. And I found that I started just trouncing the characters in the Weapon Master Challenge rooms at that point. Whereas before I was beating them quite easily. Now I was getting them into combos and holding them there. And avoiding their attempts to start combos. Because with somebody like, I'm trying to remember the name of the big axe character. Astaroth, yeah. Like, he only needs to hit you 3 or 4 times to end the match.
No, there are quite a lot of characters will have some like heavy damage moves, really big, like 50%, more than 50%, even if they're not like a giant bruiser like that. Some will kind of have a bit of a charge to that, like the animation or whatever, but if it connects, it's big damage, so yeah, which I guess is kind of appropriate for a weapons themed fighter. It would feel pretty ridiculous for like some of these attacks. I mean, to do very little damage when you're wielding what appear to be pretty deadly weapons. It'd be maybe not quite as severe as like a Samurai Showdown, but it should be pretty harsh.
Sam Show, for those who have never played it, is infamous for you could basically end a fight in two moves if you connect with the right 2 moves. Because the idea behind its design is it's also a weapon-based fighting game, and the idea is that most samurai duels, it was not about like who survives the strikes to the end. It was who gets the first strike because the other person's probably dead. Because it's a long slashing cut, and the blood loss is going to be intense and immediate and deep. So it was really about, a lot of those fights were really about positioning and footwork and stuff like that. And that translated really well to 2D fighting games, where you would spend a lot of time in a Sam Show between high-level players of just kind of feinting in and out of like, am I going to attack? Am I coming? Am I coming? Here, whereas the fight, once it got started, would be over almost instantaneously. This isn't quite that extreme, but it can get there. Like, Nightmare has some combos that are 75%. Easily, if you're a relatively small character, and also the other thing that it taught me is verticality, understanding how low strikes set up high strikes, understanding how to get throws out, because it's a little bit harder than they make it sound. They basically make it sound like, oh, hold the block button and press the attack, But there's a little bit more to it than that.
Well, like I said, you get your special throws as well, don't you? The ones that, are more advanced with the inputs. And so they seem to really have like the most elaborate animations, right? This is where they kind of go to town a little bit with that. This is an arcade game. It's trying to have eye-catching type stuff happen, right? That's still baked into the premise of these things. Obviously, Mortal Kombat had like fatalities and things like that, the very like lurid kind of places that 2D fighters went. But here it feels like the throws are like the most in that area in terms of the kind of camera moves that they do. And just some of them are kind of like comedic or bizarre. Speaking of things that seem like they should kill you, I think Cervantes has like one where he just impales you as part of the throw, and it's like, well, I'm dead now, aren't I? I don't really think you need to throw me at this point unless you just want to get the corpse away from you as quickly as possible.
It's stinky.
But that Link has a hilarious one, I think, where he like mounts their shoulders and like smacks their bottom with his sword.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's on Epona,
It's exactly. It's like an Epona reference, but he's like slicing your rear end of it.
The challenge,
you might not have seen it, John, because like it is very much positioning dependent, right? Like I think it's when you're behind the enemy, then if you do the grab and Y button or the horizontal,
yeah. I do all my throws when I'm facing my opponent, typically. Yeah,
right.
I didn't even realize they were actually dependent. Yeah.
No, but that's the thing. Like this game's just moves. Like the system is so complex, I don't know if you looked at the command list, but like they list all the moves by how you start, basically how you start them, with the Y button or the B button or whatever, and like so if you want to start, like there are 32 moves or combos or whatever that will start with the horizontal attack. 32. If you look and then like you move to the other tab for the horizontal attack, there are 41.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's like, how are you supposed to memorize all that? And then like there are like these little dots of color that like tell you, okay, I'm gonna go to help here. What's the legend here? Okay, so that might mean mid attack or unblockable attack, special throw, special movement, guard break properties, guard impact properties, switch to stance, because some characters have several stances. It's so overwhelming. Like I look at this and I'm just, I turn my brain off immediately. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm button mashing, because it's just, I guess I'm not into fighting games that much.
Yeah, I think what I do like about this, as opposed to something like Street Fighter, like any of the newer Street Fighters or Tekken, is I feel like you can get away with button mashing and still enjoy it, whereas those other games, if you don't know what you're doing, you're lost. You are sunk. You're going to suck against the computer.
Oh, yeah.
Other players will absolutely wipe the floor with you if you go online. Like, you're done.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that barrier to entry is so high in those other games, and I don't think it's quite as high here. You can still have fun with the game, just really not knowing what you're doing. I mean, I was pretty much just either, spamming A, trying to get in throws, and, you're able to get through arcade. You can muddle through arcade. Like in Street Fighter 6, I felt like I couldn't even really get through the arcade mode without sitting there doing training in the tutorial mode. It was crazy.
You can absolutely do a lot without necessarily knowing how to play the game. I actually played this game in an arcade on a field trip when I was in high school. Actually, it would have been middle school. It must have been high school because it was Soul Calibur II. And the person that I played it against was kind of an ass. And I had already gone through everything in this game at home. And I was just like, he's like, oh, I know fighting games. I was like, oh, I've never played it, so you have to go easy on me. And then I proceeded to ring out him for $4 worth of quarters on every single match. And he's just like, you're just button mashing. How are you doing this? And then at the end, I was like, no, actually, bro, I've already played this game for like 100 hours. I hit him with this, and literally I only did the dash the dash down slash every single time. I hit him with the same attack all playthroughs because I was an asshole and I wanted to put this fucker in his place.
Ring out is kind of the great equalizer. Like you can cheese against somebody, which is what I like.
But also, if you get overconfident, you can fuck it up.
Oh,
like,
that's true.
100%.
I guess the thing is, when you're talking about sort of like Weapon Master, there's a built-in sort of asymmetry in terms of, obviously you could kind of just try again. So there's always that kind of incentive to think about, hey, let me see if I can catch him out here and get him out cheap, essentially. But I do feel like it would be very, very different if you were playing against a human opponent, especially over a period of time where you got to know each other's tendencies or whatever. It would put more of what you already mentioned, that dynamic that you might have in something like Samurai Showdown, right? Where it's all of a sudden you're feeling each other out more because if you go in for an attack kind of too aggressively, they may be able to just turn it around on you, get you to the perimeter, and then ring you out pretty cheaply. So it's going to become a lot more of a sort of tense, kind of affair at that point. Whereas the computer players in, the Weapon Master mode and all that, they don't really seem to show that kind of recognition of like, if they're defending near the edge and I go for them, I could be gone very quickly. Like they never really seem to be cognizant of that danger,
Yeah, I've absolutely seen. You can't walk out. You can't just go like, "Fuck this, I'm done." But I've absolutely seen the AI use attacks that, even if they connected, we're both going out. Like there's no chance that we're not both going out. If they miss, if they miss, they're 100% going out. And so it's just this like, okay, this is an incredibly suicidal attack. I beat one of the very late Weapon Master challenges on this run that I was just banging my head against. Because the opponent, which I think was Necrid, did a move that put both of us ring out. But because Talim can fly further because she's low weight, he fell faster and touched the ground first. Even though I left the vertical space of the ring before him.
That's awesome.
So he left the ring after me, but hit the ground first, and I got the win. I'm like, that's so stupid. So fucking stupid. But also I didn't care because it was like my 9th attempt at that match. I was like, whatever, I'll take it. Let's move on. The instance in the arcade, which was, I believe it was played at Paramount's King's Dominion, which is the theme park. Legitimately, it was just like, I understand how to ring you out, and I'm just going to do it over and over and over again until you learn. And the thing is, if that's the only thing you're seeing, and the match just immediately starts with you getting slammed in the face, and then you get hit 4 more times and it's over, you will never get a chance to learn to do anything else. It was absolutely bullying. But if he had gotten like even a minute of getting to understand those controls, and had gotten to like play with the sidestep stuff, that whole strategy would have died. Because it only worked because I knew he didn't know how to sidestep. Because you could sidestep, you could literally start the match with a sidestep, and that whole plan is out the window. So there is a learning curve to this game, but it's an interesting one. So like at the very beginning, you can probably tap out combos relatively straightforward because there's a lot of like / combos. They're almost Dynasty Warriors style combos where it's just like you just hit the attack button 4 times. And everybody's commands are basically the same. So like they carry from one character to another. What they do is obviously very different, but the inputs are the same.
Yeah, it does help a lot. The only thing I had a problem with was doing the charge. Like I pretty much never did like the soul charge or whatever it is, because on the Switch Pro controller, you have to do it's X, Y, and A at the same time, and I can it's just the most awkward thing. Doing the throws is okay because it's just like running in Super Mario Brothers basically, right? You're just holding down B and A, but holding down Y, A, and X in the middle of combat is pretty challenging.
And there's a charge time on it too, during which you're vulnerable. The AI loves to try to pop those off and is really bad at it. And so, like, a lot of times I would see them trying to pop it off and I would just hit them. Just be like, nope, we're not doing that.
Try again. With the GameCube original, wasn't it like a C-stick thing that they had for some of those button combinations? Like there
might have been.
I think you could flick the C-stick in a particular direction and it would do different buttons being held.
I mean, like if you look in the NSO, if you pull out the controls and you can see what is assigned to what. And yeah, like I think that right on the stick is helpful for that pressing B and X at the same time, which is not easy to do on the actual Switch controller.
They are incredibly potent attacks if you can get them out. I've just never, John, to your point, like I can get them out, but I've never really felt, and this could be because of the characters I play. I play Xinghua a lot as well. These are fast combo heavy characters who are going to need to hit you a lot of times. But it's more about pin down, keeping the enemy constantly trying to retake the initiative, and just trying to deny them as much as you can. The charge attacks don't really fit into that playstyle because you essentially have to stop and stand still and charge up your attack. But I suppose if it was a character that has more of a stationary fighting or is slower or is less combo oriented, it probably would make a lot more sense. So an Astaroth, a Necrid, even a Nightmare. Although Nightmare can move. Nightmare has more... I'd go almost use the word schmovement. Nightmare moves through attacks, but more than through steppies. Like if you do the down chop combo on Nightmare, you can actually cover a lot of the screen pretty quickly. But even there, he's still not that fast. But those slower characters, I bet the charge is probably more beneficial. I just don't play them that much, so I don't really know. I kind of should. Just have done a run. Just be like, I'm going to go play the Weapon Master mode as Astaroth. It's just pretty much the exact opposite of what I'm used to. Just to see what it's like. But like I did Mitsurugi, he's not super slow, but he's not super fast either. He's not like a closed distance, high pressure kind of. It's his attacks are much more deliberate. Like it's not like bang, bang, bang attacks. It's bang, bang, bang. So there's like time between them to react a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because this isn't a game with a combo system where like the game is explicitly locking down the opposing character like a Killer Instinct. It just happens to be that there's not really any iframes. And so if you can keep hitting, you can keep them in what is effectively the stun animation of being hit. And a lot of times the best way to handle that is to start high. And as they're falling from an attack, which is particularly likely to happen on a horizontal slash rather than a chop, because a chop generally just knocks them straight down or pushes them backwards, whereas a slash tends to cause like the fall down animation. That's the one where you actually might have time to kneel down and get a low attack in as they're coming in, as they're falling, where they don't have control of their character yet, and then you can maybe get them into some kind of combo where you're bouncing them while they're on the ground. That is one way to beat Nightmare. Not Nightmare, Inferno relatively easily. I actually, it's the Charade is the one that gave me more trouble than Inferno. Charade's basically just Inferno, but not on fire.
Yeah.
Which is weird. Like you can, so a lot of the characters you unlock, you cannot take into arcade mode. You can't take Mercenary, you can't take Lizard Man, and you can't take, I can't remember what the other one is. But you can take Sung Mina. I'm blanking on the other two you unlock. I literally just said one of them.
Well, Sophitia is another one.
Sophitia, yeah. And then Charade. You can take them into arcade mode and get their story versus the Weapon Master story. And Charade's story is basically like, he's part of the Blade. He woke up and he's like, man, I should go find the rest of the Blade, but he doesn't know why. And then he still fights Inferno. It's like, what? That's dumb. Why? And then it's
I'm sure that the story bit at the end of the arcade mode will tell you why.
No.
All your answers.
It says that after he beat Inferno, he picked up the remaining pieces of the soul edge. It formed inside of him, and then he went to sleep.
Okay.
It was like, what? That's it? Charade, you suck. Bro, you suck. Now, what's interesting, though, is do you actually ever get the Soul Calibur in this game?
I feel like that was mentioned somewhere in the Weapon Master. I mean, it's a lot of text.
They mentioned that you get it, but you don't get like a Soul Calibur in the mode for that person.
Yeah, oh sure, yeah. No, exactly. Again, it all just feels so disconnected. All that text,
right.
And like all the names and all that. It's kind of difficult to really kind of latch onto it and feel like it has any sort of substance or anything, because it is so sort of disconnected from the actual characters and the actual weapons that you're using. You know, it's so retaining it is not that easy because you don't have that sort of salient sort of elements to keep in mind.
I feel like the Soul Calibur that had all the Star Wars characters, I think that was 4, and had Ezio, who kind of fits. Like, he's in the right time frame. How Yoda and Darth Vader end up there, fuck if I know.
A long time ago.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's not supposed to be like, I don't know, maybe just a long time ago. Who can say? But
it's far, far away as well.
It is far, far away. I do like how Link's reason for being there is they detected a horrible negative energy, and so he traveled between worlds to go crush it before it could come to his.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, Link, are you just a fucking busybody? Is that what you're telling me?
It's like, what is this, Final Fantasy? Come on.
Link's just fucking busybody. He's like, man, I'm gonna go solve other worlds' problems now because I'm busy. Like, at least in Termina, he didn't need to be there.
There is that element of like Twilight Princess that, like, in the timeline where, you know, the bad stuff from Ocarina of Time was averted, like Link just got depressed because he didn't like get any credit or have anything to fight anymore.
Yeah.
So this is better than that. Just go off and be in Soul Calibur 2. You don't have to be depressed and turn into a weird shade that teaches wolf songs.
I heard there's a sword here that's bad. I would like to kill it, please. I like Link's ending, and they're like, he just disappears and nobody knows why, but the sword was purified. The end. It's like,
you
what?
Can still hear maybe notes of Ocarina playing. Yeah.
I just like the idea that Sophatia shows up to solve this problem again and just sees this green fairy leave. I'm like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck? All right, whatever. I'm done. I'm going back to Greece. Bye. It's so weird. It's such a weird, like, the arcade mode is so, like, if you actually go through the arcade mode with these characters, it's very funny. It's like, this person's like, I need to get the sword to save my country. But the sword is evil. That's okay. I can handle it. It's like, no, brother, you can't. That's the whole purpose of the sword. You literally cannot handle it. Why? Why are you like this?
You know, Gondor in Lord of the Rings says hello.
Oh, I mean, you're not wrong. But they're just like, why does nobody ever want to get the Soul Calibur? Because they know it exists. They dealt with it in the first game. Like, no, I need to go find the Soul Edge. It's like, that's the bad one. You don't want the bad one. You want the good one. It's a very weird, like, I understand why the characters who are trying to deal with the Soul Edge are looking for the Soul Edge. Because they're trying to, you know, prevent it from unleashing an age of darkness, as the narrator says when you reach Inferno. A new age of darkness has begun. And I'm like, only for the next 22 seconds before I put this guy on his ass. But they're never like, oh man, I should go find the Soul Calibur. That's the good sword that wants good things for me, not this bad one that wants to turn me into a zombie. Nope, we're going after the bad one. Here we go. I really like the idea that, so like Talim's storyline is, keep in mind, she's 15 years old. She's a wind priestess of a local religion that's essentially falling out of favor as religions from outside her Southeast Asian country arrive. So I assume that would be your mix of like Buddhist and Muslim and Islamic influence, and maybe even Christians coming in from the West. But she's knows something bad is happening because the wind changed direction and went to go march across the goddamn world to solve the problem. It's like, man, world was a lot smaller in the Soul Calibur times, huh? Jeez. I kind of appreciate how stupid it is. Like, Tekken is dumb. But Tekken basically comes down to the Mishima family is really fucked up.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, ooh, bad super corporation sort of thing.
Yeah, everything comes down to, boy, the Mishima family fucked this up, huh? It's like, great-grandfather was a demon. He had sex with an angel. It's like, what? Pardon? And then she tried to kill him. Oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Sure, why not? Then his son formed a major multinational corporation, but it's evil. Okay, sure. And he threw his youngest son into a volcano. What? Pardon? It's like, shit just gets so out of, like, this is more grounded than that somehow, some way. But still, very stupid. Very beautifully dumb. I actually found the arcade mode to be, like, exactly what I would have wanted if I was putting quarters into an arcade machine.
Yeah, at least it's quick, right? Like, it doesn't...
Yeah.
You know? Like, you can really, like, you can plow through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think I cleared my it times your whole thing, and I hit the top of the record board in like a 2-minute 20-second run, which just tells you that I was just plowing through people. But also, it's only, was it 2 rounds or 1? I want to say
it's 2 rounds.
It's 2, okay. It's really easy. Like, it's really easy. I have to imagine the arcade version was harder. Apparently, there was an HD remake that had Heihachi and Spawn in it for the PS3 and 360, but it is no longer available, which is sad. That makes me very sad. I like the idea that you could play as the 2 characters that nobody wanted, but not the one that everybody did. I'm watching clips that people posted in the Discord because I wanted to try to get some comments in.
Yeah, this whole franchise has had kind of a checkered history with, you know, it seems like it was kind of the hot game at the time for one particular platform, and they really did a lot to, you know, like I'm curious as to, like, if they did announce, you know, Soul Calibur 7, I bet you that would be a big deal. Like,
it might, maybe it's been so long that it might struggle to get market awareness.
Yeah,
like, it's been over a decade. I mean, I was at E3 for the last one, and there was not a line to. I was just hanging out in Namco Bandai's fenced off area, so like they had a front booth and a back booth, and they just let me hang out in the back booth, even after I finished my appointment, because it was day 3. I was tired. I'd seen everything I wanted to see. They only had 1 kiosk for it. Like, even they were like, I played a lot of it while I was there. This would have been whatever the last one was, 6. But, like, I was playing against...
I think.
Yeah, I was playing against the person who was showing it off, who I later found out was, like, one of the debuggers. And I was just getting my face beaten in consistently over and over again. Some form of karmic justice for me bullying my own bully back in high school. But it just didn't feel like that game 6 had a lot of attention. And I wonder, John, to your point, if it bouncing between platforms and them not being consistent with it and it always being the second son for their fighting games. You know, Tekken was always the one that they put the energy into. Tekken was the one that, like, Tekken Tag 2 on Wii U that has 1 million modes and like 1,000 Nintendo tie-ins and all kinds of weird, crazy shit. It always felt like that was the one that they cared about.
Well, it just seems like, and I'm kind of out of my depth here because I'm not an expert on fighting games, but they just aren't as popular as they used to be, right? Like, there was this long stretch where even Capcom was not even sure that making Street Fighter 4 was a good idea, and it was when they put a version of Street Fighter 2 on the XBLA that they realized, like, oh shit, people really enjoy this or are really buying it, and that gave it Street Fighter 4 the green light. And
they were still happening, and there was still a scene, but it wasn't getting the type of broad support from the major players that it had in the 90s.
No, and that's the thing. Like, the preferences shift over time, and even if, like, fighting games were as big as they were back in their heyday, like it probably wouldn't be big enough, because now like you compare, like if a franchise keeps making like the same numbers, eventually you're going to see it disappear,
right,
in favor of like whatever company can
something that can maybe
gonna
grow.
Get even big. Yeah. And I feel like maybe fighting games have their niche, and that's where they're going to remain, And so like the fighting game scene is going to be dominated by the big fish, and something like Soul Calibur just gets a smaller and smaller piece of the pie, basically.
Well, like I said, I mean, it's because the side-scrolling kind of fighters, have had a bit of a renaissance, right, with Street Fighter 4 onwards, right? The Mortal Kombat kind of came back with I think it was just called Mortal Kombat, but it was kind of like Mortal Kombat 9 or whatever, and then
the C-boot.
Yeah, and then Mortal Kombat, X and XL, or the different iterations of that, and then back around to like 11, and then back around to Mortal Kombat 1 or whatever. But it's they obviously put a lot of money into them, and it's got a big name ID going in its favour and all. Save for Street Fighter, but there's many other kind of side-scrolling fighters, but it doesn't feel like the 3D ones have really kind of found as much of a kind of niche post that kind of prestige slot that we talked about at the very beginning that they used to have, of like, okay, this is where arcade tech gets kind of piloted. You think of like Virtua Fighter 3 and the Model 3 board for Sega back then, and how it was showing off what its games were going to look like on that new generation of arcade board or whatever. Those were prestige games, beyond just whether how much people enjoyed the actual combat in them and all that kind of thing. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it's kind of been able to have anything quite the same in terms of compared to the side-on ones of rekindling some of that old enthusiasm. I mean, for my part, I'd say I've not played very many of them, like ever. It kind of makes me realise how few of them I have ever played. I mean, I guess some of it is the Nintendo factor. Like, has there ever been a mainline Virtua Fighter on a Nintendo system? I'm struggling to think of it.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so.
No, so I mean, I know Virtua Fighter 5, it's sort of latest iteration is coming to Switch too, I believe, with Virtua Fighter 6 somewhere on the horizon, right? So that will, if that's accurate, that is going to change in the future. But yeah, I mean, being a bit sort of like, I can remember playing against, a bit of Virtua Fighter on Saturn against someone that had a Saturn, and obviously
the Gamecom got one before we did.
There was this game. I played sort of DOA on 3DS. That's simpler than this. It's a bit more accessible, that one, but it is fundamentally quite similar. In terms of the the sidestepping and all that kind of stuff. You've got that extra axis to kind of think about, but I think it's a bit more straightforward, a kind of game. And then of course Tekken for Wii U, you already mentioned, right? That was a pretty cool version, and of course, wasn't that much stuff to get in the early days of Wii U, so that was a kind of welcome thing to have. But Soul Calibur 2 is still by far the one of these that I got into the most, and the one that kind of held my attention the most, and kind of did I get close to mastering it or whatever the hell that would even mean? Not at all, but more so than the others. I guess some of it was just because of the time, being at liberty to put time into it, and just kind of the esteem in which it was held at the time. It kind of felt like it was something that was worth putting your time into. I think that was part of it.
Apparently, the Mega Drive Virtua Fighter came to Virtual Console, which would have been very compromised.
That doesn't count.
No, I know. It would have been very compromised, but still, that's what we're dealing with here. It was that and Virtua Quest, which is a very weird fucking thing in and of itself. But no, the I just looked at the full list. Nope, there has never been one on a. Now, part of it is that series also went to sleep for a while. So
but it's kind of funny, when you think back to the GameCube days. We talked about it. Obviously, Nintendo courted the Japanese third parties much more aggressively than their indifference is probably be generous in the N64 generation. But of course, Sega became a third party, right? Sega became someone that you could get because of the Dreamcast's winded down, and of course you get Monkey Ball. Early on and stuff. So, it's really surprising that some version of that didn't happen. Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, all that kind of stuff. But that just didn't happen.
Yeah, well, Sega back then just were kind of picking and choosing where their projects would go, right?
Like Billy Hatcher's a good example, where they're like, we could put this on other systems, but we won't.
Right. But I feel like there were also Panzer Dragoon Saga, Panzer Dragoon...
Skies of Arcadia.
Which one?
Orta was the Xbox one, right?
Orta's the Xbox one, yeah. But Arcadia Legends only ended up on GameCube. The Sonic Adventure games only ended up on GameCube, I believe. At least in that generation.
For a while. I believe... maybe not. I thought that PlayStation 2 got Shadow at some point.
They might have gotten Shadow. They didn't get the ones from the Dreamcast. Battle, and I can't remember what their name for one was. After it's enhanced.
It might have just been like DX or something like.
Yeah, I think it was DX. I think it actually was DX. Yeah. So you're right. They were picking, and some of that could just be they were learning these new systems because the Dreamcast was a very different thing than these other hardwares. And they just didn't have the resources to do a multi-platform development for these things. So they just said, okay, what's the platform this has the highest chance of success on, while also making sure to spread their resources out, because they were having to introduce themselves to new markets.
It's just kind of an irony in a way when you think about it. Again, not that they're necessarily to know this as when you're planning out how you're going to allocate your development resources, but Melee was the best-selling GameCube game. And then Soul Calibur 2 was among the best-selling games. So it's like, yes, have Link, definitely, if at all possible, have Link. But also, fighting games, they had a place on this platform, so it kind of feels weird that Virtua Fighter wasn't there.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I wonder if it had to just be where we literally cannot develop for all these platforms at the same time. And so we just won't. We're gonna try to balance it out, because part of it, Sega had been a first party publisher, and so while yes, their fans were going to matriculate to other places, their fans had not been enough to sustain them before, and part of their reason for going third party was to introduce themselves to a larger audience, and so they probably had to play a little bit selective with, okay, we can't make 3 versions of this game, but what platform do we think it's going to most click with the audience of that platform? And then sort of help that establish our brand with these people who previously really haven't engaged with Sega, the company. I want to say Xbox got some weird shit from Sega.
Sure, and again, Microsoft were throwing money around as well. Nintendo were in this generation, because again, when you're faced with the juggernaut that was the PS2, how else were you going to get stuff? I guess, but it only reinforces the irony of Namco being able and willing to do the 3 different versions to kind of see, okay, well, which user base actually really likes this, and then ended up with the next game going completely against that anyway, because presumably Sony paid them to. It's kind of a funny little twist.
Outrun. This is the Xbox stuff. Outrun, all of Sega sports games. Remember when Sega had the sports franchises? Crazy Taxi 3. House of the Dead,
Radio.
Yeah, Jet Grind, Gungrave. Everybody got Sonic Heroes and Shadow the Hedgehog, but that was quite a bit later. Spartan Total Warrior from the Creative Assembly. Fuck, I forgot about that. I think everybody got that. Toe Jam and Earl 3. That was an Xbox exclusive for some fucking reason. I remember that. So yeah, like it feels, if you look at the exclusives, it feels very much like Sega was picking and choosing their spots based on the platform. Like, all right, this platform is going to primarily be focused on Americans. Let's give them all the sports things based on American stuff. Also, Gun Valkyrie, I guess, because it's got shooty things in it. Gun Valkyrie is the most anime fucking shit in the world. I cannot believe that is an Xbox exclusive. But yeah, it's a weird platform. Like that's a weird time for Sega trying to figure out what they are. So I get it.
I mean, like they must have looked at Sakaguchi going all in on Xbox, and they were like, "We'll have what he's having."
There you go.
I mean, they Microsoft largesse. Yeah,
yeah. We'll take that money as well. Thank you. There is kind of like a fun line of dissent where Tekken borrows very liberally from Virtua Fighter, something they acknowledge. I can't remember what Dead or Alive
DOI, yeah.
borrows very heavily from Tekken, despite the fact that, as we talked about, its creator making claims about how Tekken was garbage and stuff for marketing reasons. And then Soul Calibur also borrows a bit from Tekken. It takes some ideas. It's in-house.
I saw the one comment somewhere, I forget who it was, maybe it might have been the creator of Tekken, but he was complaining about how everybody got annoyed when Tekken had kind of fan service stuff in there, but when Soul Calibur did it, it didn't matter, nobody cared. Like, yeah. Stuff like I think like Geralt, like Geralt's in Soul Calibur 6 and no one cared. Meanwhile, like, Tekken has some silly characters and people get all up in arms.
Tekken had...
Because it's all so serious, because Tekken is so serious.
Oh, yeah. It's so serious. They've thrown multiple family members into volcanoes at this point, but it's very serious.
And you can also fight with pandas and stuff, and bowl. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, that's true. You can fight as multiple bears.
Yep.
And as a thing made out of logs.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous.
Tekken is way dumber. It's
way dumber. The thing is, with Soul Calibur, it's dumb, but it almost has this what I like. I like its sort of its air of like self-seriousness.
Yeah, it's like, earnest, and it's this is real.
Like, this is a real historical account of the battle for to find a sword that devours souls.
And we keep losing it every 3 years because fuck, we're really bad at this.
Yeah.
Whereas Tekken's like, I don't know, I threw my kid in a volcano to see if he'd turn into a demon. Did it work? Nah, so I threw my next kid into the volcano too.
Yeah.
So what? What the fuck? Are you high?
You're high, by the way, here's a panda bear that you can fight. Okay.
Yeah. I threw myself. Here's an assassin who takes her head off and throws it at you as a bomb. It's so dumb. It's so beautifully stupid. And the funny thing is, these characters make their way into Project Cross Zone. Because of course they do. From all of these franchises, which is extra weird. I enjoy that quite a bit. I enjoy seeing Project Cross, like Kiryu interacting with the assassin robot who takes her head off from Tekken. I don't know that any Soul Calibur characters make it in. They might. I should go look.
I don't recall. I don't think so.
There's like 8,000 characters in that franchise at this point. It's hard to say. So looking at the chat, or the Discord chat, there is a little bit of commentary here on the C-Stick stuff that we had. Hamo, right? The first thing I want to say, really appreciate the ability to use the C-Stick for the 2 attack buttons at once input. For someone with no meaningful experience in fighting games outside Smash Bros., this has made trying different characters out feel more approachable. I think this might be because I don't find the 2 buttons at once very intuitive. For example, my mind has a harder time associating kick and vertical slice attack at the same time with bomb, whereas putting it on the right C-Stick feels like a dedicated button. It has made that essential piece of characters' toolkits more accessible and memorable, though I recognize it might be a crutch in the long term. And then I don't know at this point what I should even call them, but this is PokePal, who's currently in the Discord as Let's All Spawn as Spawn, which I guess I have to give a shout out because it is related to this. Noted that playing this game on the GameCube controller feels incredibly limiting. The GameCube layout is really good for games that were designed around it, but it kind of stinks for games that don't have A as the primary input. I didn't think about that because I've been playing it on the Switch Pro controller, but there is a weirdness in the attack where it's, if you were to follow the 3 buttons around on the Pro controller, it's it's true of pretty much all of them. It's Y is the slice, the horizontal slice, X is the slash, and then X is the kick, and then A is the vertical slash. So like your 2 cuts are kept away from each other, and kick is on the high button. It's probably not where I would have put them. But
yeah, if you play Soul Calibur 6, it's it's switched around. The kick and the vertical are switched.
Yeah, but it makes sense because they're adapting this from the giant central A button and then the 2 kidney bean buttons.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Obviously, A is off to the right on the the kind of, and also X is always that's the thing. Always gets me is like X on the Super Nintendo controller is and subsequently DS. Pro, Switch Pro controllers, anything is always top of the shop, right? It's the tip of the diamond kind of thing. Whereas on the GameCube controller, X was to the side and Y was the top one. And so, yeah, pretty much anytime we've got these Switch 2 games, Switch 2 online versions of GameCube games, I'm always swapping it so that X and Y basically change places. That's pretty much a constant thing.
I do have some updates on playing as Spawn and Heihachi. This is also from Meowth, who is messing with the HD version. He noted that the C-stick is a concession to the GameCube controller, missing the shoulder buttons. That double button press is mapped to the second shoulder button on the.
Yeah, I mean,
PS2.
obviously it had one extra shoulder button, but it was rubbish.
Yeah, the Nintendo themselves said it's meant for use in menus.
It's basically like in lieu of select. It really is like just they moved select up to a shoulder position, but it's not really meant as an action button per se. But yeah, so it does have 3 shoulder buttons, but it kind of has 2.
Yeah.
You attributed this to Meowth, but it's Pokepal.
Pokepal, you're right. It's Pokepal. Sorry. Yeah. It's not my fault. Pick the fucking name.
How could you conflate Poke something with a Pokemon something?
Especially when they're using aliases.
Yeah, both users like to change their names around.
Yeah, and they're both orange.
But Meowth is also in the thread and says, man, I gotta say, of all the third-party GameCube crossovers that ended up happening, Link in Soul Calibur 2 still looks the most whatever the video game equivalent of the Uncanny Valley is. It's like they had to split the difference with a style guide that was still beholden to the N64 look.
Oh yeah,
which, we kind of touched on.
Yeah, he's made it look like that demo video, the Space World demo.
Yeah.
The update on Spawn is Spawn has a stubby little axe. It leaves a lot to be desired, but you can quick swing, which is spammable, and the rest of his kit feels pretty unimpressive. Faster characters or that lady with the weird whip, he's talking about Ivy, gave me a lot of trouble. And he notes that Heihachi, who is the PS2 exclusive, also has Spawn's range issue, but his attacks come out much faster and leave opponents stunned for a bit, which makes him stronger overall. At least for an idiot like me who just wants to button mash. I can see that. Like, it makes a lot of sense. Like, the game doesn't punish button mashing. You can beat it. It's a beatable strategy. But it's not like you can get pretty far with it.
Yeah. Again, that's basically what I did.
Yeah, that's fair.
I gotta say, I don't know. Like, I wasn't really feeling it. I still haven't got that moment where I figured this game out. And I did ask on the board does someone have a primer video or something, and Baikonite posted a video that they then admitted said this got too in depth for me, so I just button mashed LOL. And it was the same. This is by avoiding the puddle, Soul Calibur II system tutorial. And I watched some of it, and immediately it goes off the deep end, just explaining things that I'm nowhere near understanding. I have no idea what he's talking about. Like, it's way advanced, and he's going like off the cuff basically because he says like, yeah, I haven't played this in years, but like this is basically what I remember. And I had the distinct feeling of like, like you get into a classroom and like the professor just gets like a long stick and starts pulling down from the ceiling this giant screen with a long equation on it. Just like, okay, like we're gonna go over this, pretty quickly, and then you think like, oh, okay, well, I wish that he had broken this down a little bit more, but I guess we're gonna see this together. But then instead, like the dude just like, okay, so now that we've seen this, and then pulls down another screen with another long equation, like it's just like, dude, stop it, like slow down. Explain the fundamentals because that's really what I need. But the guy was explaining like, oh yeah, like there's like these, different like types of, as your movement can change like the percentage of damage that you deal.
Yeah.
Like just like this very like kind of like refined stuff that might be helpful when you're trying to be competitive, when you're trying to get really good at this game. But I really just needed the basics of, what am I supposed to know, at least,
Yeah, that's the hard part, because a lot of fighting game video content is made for other people who are in fighting games versus something that's like, hey, let's get a new game. You're more likely to see stuff, obviously, but a game that's old. I guess the assumption is if you're going back to playing this, because maybe you weren't around for it, but you are deep enough in fighting games that you want to go experience old ones, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, this was released at the time when Soul Calibur II was re-released as an HD version on other platforms. So
this would have been about 10 years after the game came out the first time, roughly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that you weren't able to like really get your feet under you on it, because I found that once I had that like moment where shit clicked, I was having a lot more fun.
I just needed someone to explain to me what's a reliable way to not get my ass kicked when I'm on the ground.
Because I
tried I just tried like rolling left and right and back and like, oh, I'm just gonna mash a button as I get up, surely I'll kick them in the face. But none of that was kind of like reliable, like rolling. I found out very quickly actually delays when your character actually gets up.
Yeah.
And so, the enemy AI was just waiting for me, like they were ready, right? Like, okay, I'm just going to swipe at you while you roll around like an idiot. I don't know.
It's so the term for that, wake ups. Soul Calibur 2 doesn't have a lot of great options here. It's got some. It absolutely has some. But getting juggled on the ground is a consistent problem, and it's something that I was doing to the CPU a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, as Link, the downward thrust was. Used a lot.
But there's a trick here. I can't remember what the fighting game's term for it is. Ukemi, where like you hit guard right as you hit the ground. So you are in the act of falling. You hit guard right away, right as you're about to hit the ground, and release it. I think it's a tap, and you'll do a quick stand. Which is like, if you see the AI get up real fast, that's what they're doing. You can side roll to try to get out of the way of the attack, because if they're not doing so, if the enemy's still high, so they haven't crouched down, if they do a side slash attack, they're going to miss you if you roll. If they do a downward slash, they're going to miss you if they roll. If they crouch and do the vertical slice, they'll still miss you because you rolled out of the way. If they crouch and do a horizontal slice, they're going to hit you. That's probably your safest wake up if you can't get the quick guard out. There are some attacks that you can use while, like, as soon as you hit the ground, that might give you an opportunity to get a hit in just to sort of knock them back for a second. I found that kicks with Talim, the on the ground kick, so down kick, when she was on the ground, sometimes got the kick out before the enemy got a chance to do a follow up, and gave me like a split second to get out. But you're not wrong that wake ups here are really a pain in the ass sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I just kept rolling and rolling and rolling, pretty much. But what I found, too, was like, I could usually get things started by kicking. Like, if, in other words, I could get back on the offensive by using kicking.
kick is really it's really about like putting the enemy and breaking up what they're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a quick sort of like rabbit punch to kind of just stun the enemy for a second, and then you come back in and start hitting them again. It
basically resets the exchange because it doesn't really do that much damage. Like kicking does the least damage. It makes sense. You're not hitting them with the blade. But it really is all about like it gives you a little space because it knocks them back a little bit. It stuns them for a second. It gives you a chance to sort of get your bearings and get ready to attack again. It's really just a reset button for that engagement. This is particularly useful against rushdown characters like Talim, who are trying to get up in your face and just combo you to death. It gives you a chance to sort of knock them back and take a second and like try to reestablish defensive position. The other thing that's a big deal here is a lot of this game is about keeping enough distance between you and your opponent. And so if you fall down but have enough distance, like you have a chance to roll. You don't have to roll very far to leave the punish zone of their attack, the hurt box. So there's some of that. But again, that starts to get into more complicated fighting game stuff that I'm not any good at. And some of the challenge mode, wake-ups were I got juggled basically an entire match because I couldn't get out of the wake-up. Any other comments from the thread?
Well, we spoke about Biker Night, but they also had an email that was it's got quite a lot of good stuff in it, if you'd like me to read. It's quite long, but like I said, there's lots of good stuff in it. So Biker Night wrote, "To whom it may concern, on a cosy Saturday night, my wife and I gathered on our living room couch to take a trip down memory lane with some Soul Calibur II. We had met far after this game came out, but had both played it a fair amount when we were younger, at least enough to have some nostalgia for it. To complete the setup, I handed her the Switch GameCube controller while I took the Pro controller. Our first few bouts were evenly matched while we figured out the controls again. Then a shift started happening and I started only winning 1 in 10 rounds.
Oh, God.
After a few more rounds, she asked if I would like to try the other controller because, in her words, it's definitely less ergonomic. With switching controllers, the luck seemed to change. I started winning most rounds. It seemed to us that the GameCube-style controller was considerably easier to use for this game, possibly due to us button mashing or due to nostalgia kicking in. We then moved into the Weapon Master mode, trading when we each had lost. This is where our first differences showed. I took the time to read the flavour text along with the story. She then mentioned that she never took the time to read it. Story so far has not been riveting. Some general this thing happened and reason for fighting that person type of stuff. It really was just there to set up some scenarios for the fight as well as different rules for said fight. Looking at it post Smash Bros. Ultimate, it feels similar to Spirit Board by using in-game assets and rule modifications to fight quote-unquote new people. As we made our way through the world, we came upon one fight where we had to beat 5 people in a single match. We each made it through 3 of the 5, but our button mashing skills were no match for the full 5. This is where I had the marvellous idea to use the save state system to save scum the fight. We ended up using this for any multi-person fights going forward. In between fights, we visited the various stores in the world so we could burn through all that hard-earned gold. Obviously, I had to purchase all the Link weapons I could. I only remember the Megaton hammer and the Bigoron sword from my younger days, but I was happy to see that they had more than just the 3D Zelda games represented. For example, the Cane of Burner. I think, would it be Burner? I've seen that written plenty of times in my life. I've never heard anyone say it. We also ended up unlocking some outfits and art. This was a nice surprise and gave us that checking off of a list feeling to keep us engaged to keep playing the game. Finally, one of us looked at our phone and saw that it was nearing 1 a.m, so we decided to save and head to bed. This was overall a very fun night. It reminded me of past LAN parties or anime/gaming convention days. Hopefully we'll continue playing, but maybe not staying up quite so late. We do have a 6-year-old. So overall, this is just a pure fun game, at least not while not being taken extremely seriously. I did notice there was no super armor, no iframes after getting hit, juggling being very prevalent. Ring outs are horribly funny as the characters ragdoll out of bounds. unlocks are through Weapon Master. I sort of wish it worked like Smash Brothers, where you could unlock things while fighting in Versus as well. Thank you for giving my wife and I a reason to have this pseudo date night.
It was fun.
Yeah, the ringing out can be very funny. What's also funny is just punishing an enemy after the fight is over. Once they,
just
like sometimes I would just go,
Yep.
You go and grab. You do a grab after they've already lost, and so like often like they just keep screaming at every hit.
Oh yeah, and it echoes too.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I did try to keep them juggled as long as I could sometimes. Just like, how long can I keep this going before the game's like, okay, you've done enough. You can stop now.
I like the presence of the cane from that's from Link to the Past, right? Is that the one that spawns the blocks that you ride around in Turtle Rock or something? Like, so yeah, obviously you've got all these sort of somewhat realistic weapons, and then we've got Link with very literal interpretation of like the artwork that would have been in the manual probably or something. So it's just this big blue cartoon wizard wand that he's, gets smacking people around with, and pretending to be playing horsey with or whatever.
Everybody has a comedy weapon, which is fun. I couldn't get anybody's unlocked though. They take a while to get to. I think they're called gag weapons. But they're very silly, and I think that's probably his. I know at some point I had unlocked pretty much everybody's joke weapon. Oh no, Link's is the bug catching net.
Oh my god, that's pretty funny.
He has the shield and the bug catching net. Yes, it's dumb. Talim's are just two big weights that she carries around. And they're useless. Like they're also bad weapons. Like they're not helpful. But I think they make noise when you hit people with them. The villages where Talim were born, children were occasionally punished by forcing them to stand with several hours holding these heavy weights crafted in the shape of elbow blades. They are not weapons, but perhaps opponents who see them may let down their guard. And every one of them has an in-game quote. And this one says, "I'm sorry, I won't do it again." It's very stupid. So the example of it is attack power minus 20%, defense power minus 20%. It's like, that's terrible. Why is that a weapon? Well, because it's a joke weapon. They're very good. I can't remember how to unlock them though. Like I tried, I just wasn't able to get in there and get them because I wanted to get Link's bug catching net. I do recall that, and it's just him fluttering around with the stupid net. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, I mean, I would just say, to me, there's what I think I appreciate about this is that there's a certain level of what I would call 90s cheese in this game that remains. And I do have a soft spot for this game, and I felt a lot of nostalgia as soon as I started playing it, because it just feels like, even with fighting games, they don't really make fighting games like this anymore.
Not really.
Or they're very niche fighting games that are either really, really anime or something like that. But this type of fighting game where fighting games seem to take themselves very seriously, even when they seem like they're not taking themselves seriously. And this one, it's this historical bent that it has is very silly.
It's very accepting of the player coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I don't think there's no other game really like it out there, or other franchise like it.
That is an accurate statement.
Yeah. And I just feel like the fighting game kind of discourse is so dominated by Street Fighter and Tekken, and I guess to a certain degree Smash Brothers, that this feels like very much kind of an oddball. And it's something where I would say this is almost like the it's kind of the, if you were looking at Nintendo franchises, this would be like if you were comparing Nintendo franchises to fighting game franchises, this would be the Metroid of fighting game franchises to me, where it has some games that are very good. It's also very weird, has some bullshit in it, and it has its niche audience that is really hardcore, but you know it's probably never going to go past that ceiling, that audience size. Right. But there's people out there that appreciate the hell out of it.
I think that's accurate. Greg, do you have any final thoughts?
No, like I said, I mean, very much like John said as well. Definitely nostalgic, just those like little like victory and defeat fanfares in Weapon Master mode and all that. You just brought back a lot of memories. If there was any muscle memory of me being better at the game, that is lost to time, sadly. That never came back or anything, but it was still, by the nature of the Weapon Master, still managed to pick up a certain amount of the, the functioning of the game and, some level of competency to go with it. But yeah, I mean, it was probably always a game that I admired somewhat more than I enjoyed it, or certainly more than I was, sort of capable of playing it. But I still did enjoy playing it rather a lot. And like I said, to this day, in a small field, admittedly, it's my favourite game of this type that I've played. It would be interesting to see, like I said, if we get some more of these kinds of big 3D fighting game franchises on Switch too, whether something could one day kind of dislodge it. But, I think it was... definitely something that it came with a lot of the one thing about all those really good reviews and all that at that time, which is, a big part of the reason why I bought it, not naturally being kind of predisposed to think it'd be something I'd necessarily get that much out of, is that it raised the level of expectation. So, it did have quite a lot to live up to, and I still did enjoy it, a lot back then, and, enjoy going back to it now.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I did feel stuff starting to come back. And again, part of that is just because I spent a lot of time with one character in my previous run, and I picked her up, and that brought back two things. It brought back how to think about the game, which is important, like how to look at the problems in front of me and how to attack them. It brought, because all the attack chains are basically transportable between characters. It also brought back like a character I'm familiar with, that I felt comfortable experimenting with stuff. But also I just, I don't think I was as good as I was when I played it back in the day, but I just kind of enjoyed falling back in with this game. I spent a bunch of time, like I had some long sessions with Weapon Master mode where I just sat there and ground it out for 3 or 4 hours of just running missions, just trying to get to the end of it. And it wasn't like this grim obligation to get there. I was having fun. Caves less so than other times, but it was nice to just sort of work my way through it. Arcade mode was fine. I wish I could have gotten some versus time, but honestly, I didn't get a ton of versus time the first time it got played either. So it wouldn't have been a huge difference for me. But yeah, I think this was a good pick for a retroactive. It's historically significant. Digestible in a relatively short period of time, and we don't really do fighting games, so it's nice for us to try something a little bit different. All right, well, I think unless y'all have anything else you want to say, that's going to do it for us. All right, well,
no, except maybe like, yeah,
I mean, the soul still burns, I guess is what we're saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, pressing the buttons to say something right before a battle in that character versus character screen. Always do it. Always press a face button to have Link just yell. And it's kind of funny that like the AI never really does it except occasionally. But for some reason, Raphael would always say like, "No good."
Nice.
And like just out of nowhere, just this complete non sequitur.
I want to say one of Tom's is just started saying, "Please." This is like, yeah, no, you're right. Fine, whatever.
Cool.
But I always press for the one of her going, "You want more?" Just over and over again. I thought it was very funny. This is the first time you fought. What do you mean, do you want more? What the fuck? All right, well, that's going to do it for us. This is the last episode we're recording in 2025, but you'll hear an episode next week. I will not be there. I have announced who is the host of that episode. John, do you know who the host of that episode is?
I don't know. Is it me?
It is you.
It is me? Yeah, I don't know. I won't be here. I don't know if I can necessarily do that, but I guess we're going to find out.
Oh.
I'm leaving. Leaving here. I will not be in the country, but I could probably do it.
Maybe we take that week. I don't know. I mean, we don't. We'll be down 2 people. I'm not going to make you try to figure out how to do it while you're traveling if you can't. Like that is what it is. If you're playing,
but when is that next recording? Is it the 8th?
Yes,
I think.
Okay.
Yes.
So January the 8th. Yeah, I mean it's. I can probably do that. Let's discuss.
Okay. Discuss. I will not be around that week though, so explicitly cannot record. So we'll figure something out. We'll do some kind of episode that week, but it may be a smaller show than we're used to. But hey, we'll figure something out. But on that, Greg, what is our music to close out this Soul Calibur 2 retroactive?
Well, it's a pretty strong soundtrack for its day. Obviously, some of the instrumentation might not sound the most kind of organic these days, but certainly it's relatively high quality by the standards of the day, and you've got quite a variety of things to represent the different, kind of heritages of the characters and all that kind of thing. And you've got the sort of, I think it's very close to the kind of melee arrangement of the classic Zelda overworld theme for Link, for instance, which is it's solid, but also well trodden kind of territory. The one I'm going for is Raise Thy Sword. So this, I believe, is associated with the kind of the kind of chapel, cathedral kind of stage and Nightmare the character. This is what the sort of the grandiose kind of quality that it's got, the virtue of the kind of period and fantastical kind of elements of it, where it's going big. I think, so yes, obviously in some ways it's a bit too silly to fully make stuff like this work, but it's still good, it's still pretty effective sort of music what it's trying to achieve.
Cool. All right. Well, on that, it's time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye.
Bye-bye.